Hello, this is Breakfast with John Kay and Naga Munchetty.
Decision day. The polls have just opened for the historic referendum on Britain's membership of the European... Good morning, everyone. It's Thursday, the 23rd of June.
Also on the programme.
A stormy start for lots of places this morning. Carol has...
So voters are going to the polls today in the referendum to decide whether the UK remains part of the European Union.
Yeah, the Electoral Commission suggests that a record number of voters are eligible to take part, with more than 46 million people registered.
Now, our political correspondent Carol Walker is in Westminster for us this morning. Morning, Carol.
Morning.
Now, we are quite restricted on what we can and can't talk about today, but we can tell people what is going on in terms of the process, can't we? Thanks very much. We've got a busy 24 to 36 hours now. You can, of course, catch live EU referendum coverage. It's going to be presented from Elstree by David Dimbleby, Emily Maitlis, Jeremy Vine on BBC One from just before 10 o'clock. Coverage continues throughout the night until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Let's look at some other news this morning, shall we? And a group of politicians has been staging a sit-in in protest in the US Congress over gun control. It's refusing to budge until they get a vote on the issue.
It follows last week's shooting at an Orlando nightclub in which 49 people died. Our Washington correspondent Laura Bicker reports.
Researchers say fears over the Zika virus have led to a huge increase in the number of women wanting abortions in Latin America. An independent inquiry has been announced into an allegation that live fox cubs were taken into the kennels of one hunt to train its hounds to kill them.
Covert footage passed to the BBC shows the foxes being carried into the South Herefordshire Hunt kennels. Afterwards, their dead bodies were dumped in a bin. Here's more from our Home Affairs correspondent, Tom Simons. And we should warn you that some people may find this report.
Good news. It's 12 minutes past 7.
Now, the presidential hopeful Donald Trump will touch down in Scotland tomorrow to reopen his £200 million golf resort. Yeah,
police and security teams in Ayrshire are preparing for protests against the billionaire's trip, though, which comes after more than 500,000 people signed an online petition calling for him to be banned from the UK.
Our Scotland correspondent, Lorna Gordon, is at the Turnberry course, and we can talk to her now. Lorna, beautiful, obviously, morning there now, but lots of controversy making this quite an ugly atmosphere for many. Oh, pleasure.
That caused quite a mess, Naga. It's 22 minutes past 7. Now, doctors, politicians and celebrity campaigners have all had their say on how to tackle childhood obesity in recent years. Now, a new project has come up with another idea, asking children themselves.
Now, before we hear the thoughts of some of those who took part, let's remind ourselves of the scale of this problem.
Let's talk to you guys first, shall we? Because you've been included for the first time. Jacob, tell me, what sort of ideas have you come up with about how to tackle this issue?
Hello, you're watching Breakfast with John Kay and Naga Munchetty.
The time just after 7:30. Good morning. Our main story is that polls have opened in the historic referendum on whether the UK should remain a member of the European Union or...
EU referendum coverage is going to be presented from Elstree by David Dimbleby, Emily Maitlis and Jeremy Vine. Our colleagues will be on BBC One from just before 10 o'clock and they'll continue all through the night until 9 o'clock in the morning tomorrow.
In other news, a group of politicians has been staging a sit-in in protest in the US Congress over gun control. They're refusing to budge until...
An independent inquiry has been announced into an allegation that live fox cubs were taken into the kennels of one hunt to train its hounds to kill them.
Carol will have the weather for us in a few minutes' time, and lots of you getting in touch this morning saying there have been some horrible storms and thunder and lightning in some place, especially in the southeast of England. So Carol will have all the latest on that.
Do you know whose fault we've got that?
Thought you're blaming someone.
I'm blaming Sally.
Oh, yeah.
Because they get it in France and Europe, and then they send it over here. And that's what Sally gets left with. Look behind you, Sally, all that beautiful blue sky.